for Bob, the infamous Bob. You have been a letter carrier for how long?
I've been a member of the NALC. Going next year will be 60 years.
60 years. Okay. And do you want to just talk about your life? Talk about how you started as a letter carrier?
Okay, well, I kind of became a letter carrier by accident. I spent 4 years in the Air Force, and I was come up here to Oklahoma City visiting a friend of mine, and went down to the federal office where the old post office used to be, and to apply for there was a kind of a thing they used to have for people who were in the military and got out, could apply for jobs that were still open when they had started out when they were still in the military. And I went down there to do that, and the guy gave me 3 different deals, and I started leaving. He said, would you be interested in taking a test for the post office? And I said, why not? So I did, and about 6 weeks later, 4, 5, 6 weeks later, I went back to Texas, and my folks who ran Wilbarger County Jail at the time, and one day I got a call. My mother said, it's your buddy Lynn on the phone. He said he's got 2 certified letters from the post office for you. What do you want to do with them? So I called him, and I said, well, open up and see what they say. I figured it must have been a job offer. The first one was an offer for a clerk, and then the second one was an offer of being a carrier. And they gave me a time to go down, and I went and met with the lady in personnel, and she said, well, which one do you want to be, a clerk or a carrier? And I said, oh, I guess I want to be a clerk. She said, no, you don't want to be a clerk. And I said, why not? She said, because if you be a clerk, it'll be 6 years before you see daylight. You work all night shifts. And we had 3 night shifts then. And so I said, okay, I'll be a carrier. And I did.
Not that being a clerk is a bad thing, right?
No, I figured,
daylight's better.
I figured it would be the easier of the 2 jobs, which it turned out it was. But I'm much glad that she pushed me towards being a carrier instead of a clerk.
Right. So did you immediately join the NALC?
I tried to. I went to work in September of '65, and I had, every time I would be trained by somebody for training for parcel post or something else, they would guarantee me they'd get me a deal that I could sign to become a union. Well, I didn't finally get that done until February of '66, when I finally got coded out to a station at 39th Street Station, and the steward there got me a copy of the what I needed to sign up for. And
so you signed up as soon as you could.
As quickly as I could, yeah.
And NALC, we're using the acronym, but what does it stand for, and what's your local branch?
National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 458 here out of Oklahoma City.
And it's always been that? It hasn't ever changed?
No, it's always been that, yeah. We are now the oldest branch in the state.
Wow.
We were the second oldest. Originally, Guthrie was the oldest, but since we've merged with them for about 40 years ago, we are now the oldest local. And there's only 2 other branches in the state that have 3-digit numbers as their local numbers.
Okay, very interesting. I didn't know that.
We've been a local union since 1893, so
okay,
we're over 132 years now, I think.
Wow. Very interesting. Do you have anything you want to ask?
Nope.
You have nothing you want to ask? Ever.
It's not like I don't talk to him about every other day. But
Well, I mean, I've seen some of these questions you give me, and I can expound on them if you want to.
Yeah. So we're moving on. So what does it mean to be a union member to you personally?
Well, it's something that I always knew I probably would be if I ever got a chance, because starting with my great-grandfather, who homesteaded in Kansas after the Civil War and was one of the founders of the Farmers Union in Osborne County, Kansas in 1870.
Okay.
And then my grandfather came to Oklahoma as a union organizer for the miners, and he did that as, when he turned 18, I think it was, his dad gave him 640 acres of land, farmland, and he promptly sold it, went to Kansas City, and in 3 weeks he was broke and looking for a job, and he took a job with the Pinkertons, who were, there was a local mine there that was on strike, and the Pinkertons were guarding the mine for the mine owners, and they gave him a rifle, a badge, and $20 bills, and he stood around for about 2 hours or so, he said, and he finally realized in his mind he was on the wrong side of the road. So he goes back to the captain of the guard and said, here's my rifle and my badge, I quit. And the guy looked at him and says, we gave you $20. He said, that was the most horrible thing he ever had to do was to give back that $20 because that meant he was flat broke.
Right.
But he went across the street, and within a month he was a union organizer for the miners' union.
Oh wow.
And you're gonna learn more about Pinkertons with that Make One movie that you're showing.
Yeah,
us.
definitely.
Yeah, they're a big part of that.
And so, as far as being a union member, I've always thought of myself that I'm a union member. I mean, my mother was a member of at least 2 or 3 where they did one place she was applied sewed right fly on a Boy Scout pants, and it was the only Boy Scout pants in the United States at the time.
Okay.
And it although she was a union member when she was there, she led a wildcat strike of her section when the cutting room was cutting it wrong and they couldn't make their quota. So she demanded them either fix it or she wanted her money and she was quitting because the union steward wouldn't do anything. So they ended up fixing it like she wanted it, and she kept her job.
Very cool. Your mother seems like an amazing woman.
Well, she later became a judge, so she used her experiences as an ordinary person to make him to be a better judge than most. I mean, of course, I'm prejudiced.
Bias.
Biased, yes. And my favorite memory
Yeah.
for Union Solidarity took place in 1998, where we had a national convention in Vegas. And on a Wednesday afternoon, there was a little concrete union that was on strike against the construction company who was doing some add-ons to the Los Angeles Convention Center. And we were supposed to schedule to end for the day at 3 o'clock, and about 10 to 3, this delegate got up and wanted to know why we weren't out in the street protesting with our concrete union. So the president rapped this as, without further ado, so ordered, and 7,000 letter carriers marched out and blocked the street. And I kind of get teared up about it because it was such a... Anyway, we blocked Sahara Boulevard starting for almost 2.5 hours at 3 o'clock at that night we were the only thing on the news. And the very next day, the little concrete union, the construction company, settled their contract and gave them pretty much everything that they wanted.
That's amazing.
I mean, doesn't get any better than that.
Doesn't get any better than that. Have you noticed that there's been a shift or a changing in letter carriers' roles throughout the years?
Yeah, it's a lot different. For one thing, we're computerized. We started doing we don't actually case much letter mail anymore, and that started in '92 when they started going to what they call DPS, delivery point sequencing.
Okay.
And
is that barcode on the envelope?
Yeah, and the only problem with that is they were only getting about 98% of it was in delivery sequence order. But the trouble with that being when your route gets 1,500 letters, then several hundred letters are not going to be incorrectly. They're either going to be from some other route, some of them another town or something, and the carrier still has to sort that out and make sure that they don't misdeliver that mail. And the amazing thing, the reason they can't and couldn't and don't do it any better than that after almost 40 years is the fact that the machines they got will only, you can only speed them up so fast, and the faster you speed them up, the more mistakes the machine will make.
I've noticed. I can see that.
So they have to, and they were told by the manufacturer when they complained about that and said, well, you bought the wrong machine. And they never have improved the machines as far as they've just allowed to know that the letter carrier will do it the way it's supposed to be done, and that they will make sure those letters don't get put in somebody else's mailbox.
But it's still the best, least expensive way to send a letter anywhere in the country.
Ever since 1981, the Postal Service has been they don't take any government money. They get by on the sale of their products, mostly stamps.
Okay.
And they've been trying to do away with that, privatize it. But the problem with privatization is that you won't get a company that will deliver to every household and business in the United States, like the Postal Service does. And they do it very efficiently. in the last 40 some years that they've been a separate agency, they've only had, I think, 4 or 5 years that they didn't make a profit.
Interesting. That's I did not know that.
Yes, I mean, letter carriers are the backbone of the Postal Service, and you can talk to clerk union people and mail handlers and some of the, and they even have their own, the police, the post office police has their own union too, and they will tell you that they usually follow whatever the NALC gets when their contract, that's what they get.
So how has the NALC helped your working conditions, helped your personal life?
Well, they make sure we've got a great benefits, such as my health benefits. When I had my heart surgery 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Okay. Anyway, it came to almost $400,000, and I paid $9.23 out of my pocket.
Oh my!
So you can't beat that as far as good insurance.
Right.
And they get good pay. We have a living wage pay. I mean, they start CCAs, which are temporary for a year. They start out at, I think, $19 or $20 an hour.
Oh wow!
And the top letter carrier will earn somewhere around, I think it's up now to about $35 or $37 an hour.
That's good. I just heard today that Oklahoma living wage is $21.
Right. Yeah. And so basically, being a letter carrier or being a postal employee means when you start out, you're at the living wage minimum, and within 5 years you'll be way up above that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So, do you feel like it's important for? I know you feel it's important for unions to continue, but what about the letter carriers in their union? How do you feel like it's important? I assume.
Yes,
that
definitely, because I mean, when we first got our first contract was locally and nationally. It was in 1971 after the 1970 strike.
Right.
That they and when we struck in 1970, a lot of carriers and clerks too in the big cities like New York, LA, Chicago, Philadelphia, places like that, their pay was so below the average for that area that they were entitled to food stamps. And that's what the strike was all about. And Nixon was president, and he thought, well, it's got to be an easy job because they are so efficient. So he brought in the National Guard. Within 4 days after he brought the National Guard in, he had decided that they need to get the letter carriers and the clerks back because the National Guard cannot do the job. They were piling up tons and tons. I mean, they ended up having to burn several 100,000 pounds of mail at most of the big cities because they couldn't get it delivered. And,
oh my! I can't imagine that.
And anyway, they went back to work and settled in that weekend between Nixon and our president at the time. We got a contract for the first time, and we've been getting contracts about every 3 or 4 years ever since then. And since 71, the letter carriers have never had to do without a pay raise in the new contract.
That's amazing. That's the power of unions.
Yes, I mean, it proves the power. It's like it proves the power of what unions can do if they stick together.
Yeah.
So, maybe getting a little off subject here, but tell them a little bit about some of the things you do in the community that people may not know about.
Okay, well, the two main things that we do is the Letter Carriers Food Drive and the MDA. We became the first union to back Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin in the MDA, Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Them guys?
No.
In 1952.
Are they actors?
Yes. Dean Martin was a singer-actor, and Jerry Lee Lewis was a comedian. Jerry Lewis was a comedian, and he could sing too.
Okay.
Of course, they're both gone now. They've been, I think Dean Martin died in the 90s.
You have to go back and read some stuff about the Rat Pack and stuff.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the Postal Service in 1952, when we took the Postal Service allowed us to go on a Sunday night around in our communities and knock on people's doors and ask them for donations to the muscular dystrophy. And for many, many years, Jerry Lewis would attend our national convention to thank us for what we did for all those years. And then of course in 1992, Phoenix, Arizona branch got together and decided the local food bank needed help, so they organized, with the help of the Postal Service and the Clerks Union, a food drive. And the next year in in 92, 10 major cities took the food drive, and seeing how much it gained. I think they gained 14 million pounds of food.
Wow.
And so that in 93 we started it out and all over the country. And I was vice president of my local at the time, and my branch president came in one morning and said, "Do you think we should do the food drive?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And he reached behind his back and he had this folder about that thick, and he said, "Here, you're in charge." So I contacted the co-director from the Labor Council, Barbara Royce, and I said, "What do I do?" And she said, "Call Rodney Bibbins at the food bank, set up a meeting," and said, "I'll get a hold of Frank Burns at United Way and we'll meet and discuss what we can do." So we started out the first year, we gained 120,000 pounds.
Wow.
And it took us till it was like 8 o'clock before we finished unloading the truck, because where the regular food bank was, they had flooded out and we couldn't use that. So Rodney rented a abandoned warehouse at 48th and Lincoln Boulevard, and the only trouble was his pickup. He didn't have any large trucks. When he backed his trucks back up to there, they were at the top of the truck was at the bottom of the.
Oh no!
So we had one 7.5 ton truck for the post office. So we had to unload all the food out of Rodney's trucks into the post office, back that up, and that took like 20 times doing that to get it all unloaded. Then we had a really nice thing happen. He had got some people who were fixing to get out of prison and to help out. And about 10 o'clock that night, they decided they were through with doing it, and they took off. So it took us like 4 days to get to all unloaded and straightened out and get it to where we could get it out to the regional food bank.
Well, I know in the last few years I've gone, it's a lot more efficient. You can get out of there probably 5 at the latest.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. Most of the time now, most of the local post offices are through by 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. Because it is really, I mean, it's come down to where we have same people like our Clue chapter goes to Bethany every year, and they know exactly what they're doing because they've been doing it now for several years.
Yep. If anybody's interested in volunteering, it's in May, right?
Yes, it's the second Saturday in May.
So how do they
They can
sign up?
They can contact our local branch at 405-789-2220, or they can contact the regional food bank, and they can set you up with a place for them to volunteer at. And if they keep doing it like the Clue chapter does every year, they'll get to be doing it in the same place every year. And we ended up this year becoming number 1 in our category and number 2 in the nation. And that's something we've been doing for nearly 20 years, where we're in the top 5 or sometimes higher every year. And people are coming, locals. So when we go to the national convention and have the food bank things, a lot of the locals come. Steve, who is our resident man in the moon on TV, he gets to go up and give an education to a lot of locals that are wondering why we're doing it as small as we're, because we're among the locals that do it, and the big locals, we're about the smallest local of that group.
Okay.
So tell them. I mean, tell them a little bit about your volunteerism, like with your church.
Like personally.
Personally.
Yeah, I mean, I started out as a Baptist. In fact, my dog tags that I got when I was in service that I carry around on my key chain still say that's what I am, but I never was really a good Baptist. So when me and my wife got married, she was a Methodist, so we didn't go to church. And then after she passed away, I had heard, Barbara Roy said, when we were dating, and she said her daughter was worried after 9/11 that she wasn't saved or she needed to go to church. So she said, find us a church that we can go to. And so I had read this article about in Columbia School of Journalism about the worst newspaper in the United States, which was picked the Daily Oklahoman at the time.
Mm.
So I thought, I remember there was something in there about a minister in Oklahoma City. So I got a copy of it and I read it, and there was this place called Mayflower Congregational Church where the minister said that if he'd ever win the lottery, he would do all the good things he could for the church and people, and if he had enough money left over, he'd buy a newspaper and go in competition with the Daily Oklahoma. I thought that sounds like my kind of church. So we went there, and after a couple of times, we decided to join, and I've been a member there, they feed the homeless every other Saturday down at the homeless lines.
Now, are you still doing that? Or?
I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay,
but our church is still doing it.
I must have misread some of your Facebook stuff.
I mean,
like
I donate money to it, but
I
haven't done it since the pandemic.
Right.
Because we when the pandemic came along, we actually couldn't do that for nearly 2 years, and we were donating money in place of what we couldn't do, and now we went back to doing it, and we're also doing another a rehab place called Joe's Addiction, which is over on the southeast side part of town, and I think we serve them every Saturday, but they only serve about 150 meals. At the homeless lines. Before the pandemic, we were doing we were averaging almost 400 meals every other Saturday.
That's amazing.
I volunteered for that once or twice. That's really an experience if you've never done it.
I mean, it's something that it's amazing, because from our church, we offer a prayer at the beginning, and that's it. We don't proselyte. We don't try to get them to sign up to come to church or anything. And the amazing thing, we've had some of the homeless members actually start attending our church. We've done that. That's done it without our knowledge. They just come and start to show up.
Yeah.
The reason I was bringing that up is that the general public just needs to know that besides the everyday stuff that we do to represent our union and our members, we do stuff outside in the communities that makes us important to the communities that we're in.
Right, we do.
Important.
I mean, unions, that's the one thing that unions do. They give back to the community for things that they've received.
Yeah.
So every time we interview somebody like you, or I would kind of like to get a background on what they do in the community, so the general public that might hear this podcast will know that we're just not a organization that represents members, and we don't care about anything outside of that.
Right. Every local that I know here has some kind of community thing they do, or charitable donations and things to help, especially the homeless people. I mean,
we're probably going to have a few of them in over the next several podcasts that we were able to get up. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, because NALC is the kind of pillar of the food drive, the food bank are constantly doing something.
Well, you're right, and this year was lower than we've had in a long time, and I don't know why that is, because we were averaging at one time almost 60 million pounds every year. We are still the single largest single day food drive in the world.
Yep.
In total number of pounds that we actually cook. I mean, here locally, we between the monetary and the food that we collected this year, almost over 1.1 million pounds of food, which will serve Oklahoma, which means what happens is we will serve. In other words, 6 months to 8 months, sometimes all up to a year, a lot of small towns will be able to feed the homeless people in their town without having to draw from the regional food bank because of what we collected at our food drive.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, I just wanted to ask one more thing, and then I'm going to open it up to you if you wanted to talk about whatever you wanted to talk about. I'm really focused on the youth, the young labor leaders that are coming up in this new generation. Do you have any words for young letter carriers?
I say any chance to get to, whether you're working as a letter carrier, clerk, or outside in another job, if you don't have a union, try to figure out how to get one,
Mm-hmm.
because unions are the backbone of this country. They have done things like they're credited with bringing us the weekend, the overtime pay, 40-hour work week, all kinds of different things that has led to a better life for billions of our citizens over the year because of the unions, what they did. And that thing goes on. I mean, there's, people, a lot of things have always want to know, why would you join a union? Well,
Right.
I remind you of George Meany, who once somebody asked him why he didn't unionize Texas Instrument. He said if every company and if every company treated their employees like the people at that union, there would no need for unions to exist. But because we do that, what we do is make life better, give not only union people a better life, but we help other people who are not union get better pay, get better benefits.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. Anything else you want to add?
I can't think of anything else offhand.
Well, something we do is we allow the guests to name this podcast episode. What would you like it to be named?
Gosh, I can't even think of it.
Old man in a chair? No.
That sounds good.
No.
Okay.
That's better than old man with a gun.
What about old man with a letter?
Depending on the situation, yeah.
Well, I just would go back to what my grandfather told me when, this was in the late 50s when I was staying with him, and he said, if you ever get a chance to join a union, be sure you do. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I like be sure you do.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, Bob's episode, be sure you do. And people will have to listen to figure out what that means. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to say?
I can't think of any. I mean, like I say, I have been a union member going on 60 years now, and I wouldn't take it's gave my family better life, we've had great union benefits, and I hope to have them into the day I die.
Yeah, that's amazing. Very nice. Well, thank you, Bob, for coming on to the Oklahoma Unions podcast.
All right, thank you.
We're so just for the podcast people that are listening, we're trying to get these set up to do one once a week. We're hoping this one will get up fairly soon, within the next week, and then we have some other podcasts scheduled. You want to talk about those?
Ashley Borwinkle. She's the new young leader for AFT 4574, which is the paraprofessionals at schools. And we have Lynn Green, who is a retired AFT 2309, who is the teachers.
Yes, he's a member of my church, too.
Yep, he's a member of your church. And he's going to also brush a little bit about union history. So we'll have you back on I know you have a lot of poems, Bob, so maybe you can read us some of your union poems.
What's the name of your book?
You would ask me.
It's your book!
Something to the spirit. I can't remember.
That's okay.
Into the spirit. I got a book out in my car.
That's all right.
We'll post it when we post this episode.
He has these books of poetry and some personal stories that he's collected and put into this book, and it's really worthwhile to get.
Yeah, it's and there's one. If you get my book, there's one deal that had to happen to me when I was in the Air Force. It's called Being Barney Fife, and it's about the time I was doing guard duty during the Cuban Missile Crisis. They issued us an M1 and a clip of 8, but they had to keep the clip in our jacket pocket, and we were under no circumstances to take it out and point the gun at anybody if it was loaded, because we were sissies. We were clerks, or we were not air policemen, and that it turned out it was it was kind of scary for it at the time, but it's a very funny story to listen to read because of how it turned out.
Okay. Well, I like the little teaser.
Yeah. And you can
tapping into my spirit.
Tapping into the spirit.
Is the title of my
That's
book.
You want it?
Yeah.
Tapping in. Oh, is that the name of the book?
That's the name of the book.
Okay, that's the name
And
of the
there's
book.
about 110 poems and about 14 different short stories that's in there.
Very nice.
And most of the short stories are stuff that happened to me either as a child or while I was in the Air Force.
Amazing.
Well, I'm glad you came in today, Bob. This was a great discussion, and you know, you're one of my mentors, so I like to listen to all your stories.
You're my grand mentor.
So, you know, appreciate you coming in and sharing some of your stories, and we can have you back sometime and talk about some more stories, and just kind of let you know, because I know how you feel about unions. He's been here at the Labor Council for as long as I've been involved with the Labor Council, and that's going way back to 80. He's probably been there longer than that.
Yeah, I started going in the Labor Council in I actually became a delegate to the Labor Council in 1989.
Oh.
But I had been going to the Labor and Fringe Banquet since '78.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I think I was a delegate like in 82 or 83.
Well, in '78 we had the last Labor and Fringe Banquet that was held in a union hotel. The Sterling Tower Hotel was union at that time.
Yep.
Not that we wouldn't have one there.
I know.
If there was one, we'd have one
Yes,
there.
It was
we
union,
would
we'd go.
have had one everywhere we could. We basically had them at places that were friendly to unions.
Right.
And
Okay, very
All right.
nice.
I think we're good.
Thank you, Bob.
I appreciate you.